Commissioner, you had mentioned during your earlier testimony that learning loss on paper looks abysmal. And truly, our schools have had to make do with remote learning for the better part of the last 17 months, not because of any decision that they made, but because of the mandates imposed by this administration. And now a high school senior could have the education of a sophomore. A sophomore may have an 8th grade education, and a 4th grader, of course, perhaps is hurt most of all in that comparison by perhaps only having a 2nd grade education at this time. And meanwhile, school funding is being cut in my district by more than $12 million, and over the past number of years since S2 was adopted, many millions more. We're literally getting socked from both ends. How can schools correct learning loss caused by government officials when they have so little resources? And with the Department of Education not doing anything, the school districts I represent are considered by Governor Murphy to be apparently unworthy of the funding needed to address learning loss and student mental health, and are left to navigate the challenges caused in many instances by the state itself. And as a result, schools are forced to cut programs, reduce assistance, while raising property taxes. Fewer teachers and larger classrooms make it even more difficult. So while the school can't afford to get our students back on track, parents are less likely to be able to afford getting tutors or therapy for their kids because their property tax bills are ever increasing. Their utility bills, with inflation being what it is, are rising. And their food bills, of course, are getting higher. And it seems as if Governor Murphy cares even less by cutting school funding even more. There is $3.1 billion left in the American Rescue Plan funds, and not a cent has really been recommended for learning loss. Focusing on learning loss, the money which should have been spent on preventing funding cuts for districts to help them provide a thorough and efficient education for their students, we are now seeing those same districts face funding cuts that keeps students 2 years behind while raising property taxes for their parents. Is that really a stronger, fairer, and affordable, more affordable New Jersey, Commissioner?
So I'd like to respond by saying that the stronger, fairer, more affordable New Jersey, as articulated by Governor Murphy, is one that honors the SFRA as amended by S2, which the legislature put forward and the governor signed. So I want to be clear that this 7-year phase-in was deliberately designed to have districts right-size if they are on the declining side of school funding, and to have districts that were underfunded gradually increase to provide the services to meet their students' needs. I also would like to add that the public health emergency is what led to the remote instruction in education, not the governor. And the following of science has always led this administration in consultation with the experts in the health field. And so when you think about what we are doing with learning loss, I think it's important that I'm even more specific and go back to the highlight of taking the initial funding that we received from the federal government in the first ESSER 1 round and allocating $2.5 million of that toward a competitive grant process that would allow 16 school districts to apply to receive funds and use those school districts, if you will, as beacons to help other school districts see what is possible and to utilize their funding going forward toward the same end. Further, I like to state that of the next round, the ESSER 2, $75 million was allocated for learning loss, with a focus on enhancing STEM education as well as visual and performing arts learning. With that, the freedom exists within each local school district to decide how to best utilize those funds, whether it is the purchase of materials, whether it is the offering of additional programming after school, utilizing the wonderful technology that we have now, which we know every student received a device from the school district and access to the internet, that districts are able to be innovative. And so I'm very proud of the Department of Education and the Murphy administration that fosters innovation. So instead of being prescriptive and saying, school districts, you must do this, we have said, school districts, you know best what you need. You know your community. And we want to support you in moving those plans forward in alignment with the allowable uses from the federal government. Hence, our vetting program through our grants application process has allowed us to do just that. And then as we look at the largest amount of funding, and with the allocation of, the number is $135 million, yet again, to support learning acceleration, I want to take a moment and go through some of the particulars, because it's so important that we understand what that actually looks like. And so with the retention of staff, as you articulated, that many school districts that are on the losing end have difficulty with saying goodbye to some of their programs. This funding allows them through 2024 to continue some of the pertinent programming that they have determined is most appropriate. And I'm proud of that, as opposed to, again, being prescriptive, saying this is the way that you must meet learning loss as determined by an outside entity. You know what goes on in your school community, and we're here to help you facilitate that. And the allocation does just that. And the amount of opportunity that is available through the catchment area expanding from 12 categories to 15 to 16 allow for that. But when you think about the specificity, what are we doing when we know that children may have school phobias? Are we looking to augment the school day? Some districts are. Are we looking to bring in expert professionals who can help us set up a system that is sustainable to meet the needs of those individuals, not just now, but into the future? Those are some of the flexibilities that school districts have as it relates to learning acceleration. It's not simply about a score on a test. It's about fostering the strongest relationship between students and their learning experience. And we value the individuality that goes along with that, and we are very proud of that. Now, you
Thank
cannot, oh, please, I'll let you go on.
I know it's getting a little bit late. I think you would agree, though, Commissioner, that our teachers as well face tremendous stress. They, too, were put in a very difficult situation, and we need to take into account their needs as well, especially as we are looking for them to reduce learning loss. The teachers in my district, they aren't getting their needs taken into account with funding cuts. They're being put instead into an even more difficult situation. Would you consider that to be a stronger, fair, and more affordable situation for New Jersey?
The stronger, fair, more affordable mechanisms in place allow us to have conversations. And if you would be so kind as to share those names with me later, my agency will have outreach through our county offices to make sure that all avenues are explored to retain those high-quality staff members you referenced.
I appreciate that, Commissioner.